What's poppin', Vault Dwellers? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. And since this is the Heavy Spoiler Show, expect heavy spoilers coming your way for the new Fallout TV series on Amazon Prime, because we gotta talk about this wild wasteland ride, man. I truly cannot believe we are living in a golden age of actually good video game adaptations. So let's talk about this super exciting ending together, shall we? Because Viva New Las Vegas, my dudes and dudettes. Major League Gambling is back in town, as the final shot of the series shows that heartless corporate bastard Hank McLean fleeing the wrath of consequences by heading to the dangerous playground that is the city of New Vegas, a place that is the main setting of the 2010 video game Fallout New Vegas, and it is a strip of casinos actually located next to actual Las Vegas in the area known as Paradise. And my god, is this place no longer paradise, let me tell you. New Vegas was birthed in large part due to the founder of Robco Industries, Robert House, a man that we actually see in the finale as part of Vault-Tec's secret cabal of corporate entities looking to cash in on the apocalypse of their own making. Entities including the weapons and biotech giant West Tech, the energy and rocket manufacturer Repcon, and the Big Mountain Research and Development Center, aka Big MT. No relation. Growing up in the Vegas area, it was important for Robco founder Robert House to preserve as much as Vegas as he could, so he would use his vast money and resources to make sure that the Vegas Strip was left standing for when him and his cabal called for the bombs to fall, as he would install a series of high-tech weapons to shoot down any nuclear warheads headed Vegas's way. Robert House would of course play a role as a major antagonist for the player to face off against and potentially defeat in Fallout New Vegas, a game that takes place in the year 2281, 15 years prior to the events of this Fallout series in 2296. And since Vault-Tec and friends all regarded time as the greatest obstacle of all, Robert House would make sure to preserve his body in a life support tube for 200 years, connecting his brain to a supercomputer to allow himself to digitally enjoy and manage his New Vegas empire. However, since the fate of New Vegas is entirely dependent on which faction the player wants to team up with to take over the area, it's not exactly clear who is in charge of New Vegas in 2296 when Hank McLean rolls up in his freshly stolen power armor. So fans of Fallout New Vegas can definitely get excited to finally find out what canonically happened to the region and who ultimately ended up taking control from the shriveled up raisin that Robert House of Robco would become. And hell, maybe Robert House is still alive in this universe, who knows? But at any rate, I have a strong feeling that Hank is going to be gunning for the top management position in Robert's old House of Chaos. But more on that a little later. But first, let's talk about the overall story of this Fallout TV series, a series that we learn was started due to the greedy corporate entities that teamed up with Vault-Tec in order to profit off of the end of the world, along with Cooper Howard's wife, Barbara Howard. With famous actor Cooper Howard as Vault-Tec's popular mascot, all of these companies successfully sold the idea of surviving a nuclear apocalypse to the masses. And because of this, they choose to willingly trigger the very nuclear apocalypse themselves in order for their buyers to feel like they made a good investment, which is nuts. These heads of these companies and those affiliated with them would secure themselves cryopods inside various vaults in order for them to survive long enough to rule their new world, with Hank McLean and Betty being two of those chosen to be frozen in Vault 31 as pre-chosen overseers. Fast forward 200 or so years, Hank McLean wakes up and meets and then marries Rose McLean, and the two become parents to both Lucy and Norm, and after a while, Rose starts to detect evidence of life flourishing on the surface. So, much like Lucy would in the future, Rose would leave the vault with her kids and discover the community of Shady Sands, a community that a young Maximus was actually part of. And after following his wife and retrieving his children back from her, Hank McLean will fulfill his corporate duty of ensuring Vault-Tec forges the future by blowing Shady Sands to Kingdom Come with a nuclear explosion, killing almost everyone there, with a very young Maximus surviving inside of a refrigerator like some type of Indiana Jones, only to be discovered and recruited into the Brotherhood of Steel, to exact her revenge on Hank for destroying the new California Republic capital. Moldaver and her crew of soldiers would infiltrate Vault 32 and pretend to be Vault Dwellers there in order for them to successfully infiltrate Vault 33 using Lucy's arranged marriage to a Vault 32 member as their in. But once they finally start their attack, they quickly slaughter countless Vault dwellers before taking Hank hostage, leaving a heartbroken but determined Lucy to leave the Vault for the first time to get her father back, while her brother Norm stayed behind to try to figure out exactly what's been going on with their Vault neighbors. Lucy's journey would eventually find herself in the town of Philly, where she would run into none other than Cooper Howard himself, now known as the Ghoul, who, thanks to the joys of radiation, was given a prolonged lifespan and rotting flesh. The Ghoul was in town because of an Enclave scientist named Siggy Wilzig, who was attempting to secure safe passage to Moldaver herself, with the Enclave being the leftovers of the pre-war American government that has quickly devolved into fascist and racist practices, leading them to view themselves as the superior-minded group, and going out of their way to murder anyone that wasn't part of their weird cult. Hence why it wouldn't be very long for a bounty to be placed on Wilzig's head for stealing the Enclave's cold fusion technology and injecting it into his neck. But anyways, after Maximus steals some power armor from a dying douche of a knight, he arrives in Philly to defend Lucy and Siggy from the Ghoul, and as the two face off, Lucy agrees to take Siggy to Moldaver herself, intending to use Siggy as a bargaining chip in order to get her father back. But when Siggy's injuries prove too much for him to move on, he begs Lucy to cut his head off so that she can deliver the cold fusion technology to Moldaver easier. But unfortunately for Lucy, the scientist's head would be swallowed by a gulper right before she would be kidnapped by the Ghoul in order for him to sell her organs to some weirdos inside of a super duper mart. But since Lucy is the main character, she does manage to escape and mercifully decides to save the Ghoul from turning into a Pharaoh Ghoul. And later, after the Brotherhood sends Thaddeus as Maximus's new squire, the two come across the scientist's head after nearly getting eaten by the very same gulper that swallowed the head. However, when Thaddeus learns that it was indeed his old bully victim Maximus that was now his new Knight Master, he quickly betrays Maximus by locking him into his power suit and taking the scientist's head so that he could deliver it to the Brotherhood himself for all the glory. The next day, Lucy finds Maximus and helps him out of the suit and agrees to team up with him in order to get the head back. After Maximus is shot by some random wanderers, the two find their way to the ruins of Shady Sands and make their way inside of Vault-Tec subsidiary Hawthorne Medical Laboratories, not knowing that a vault of Vault-Tec mutant experiments were living inside and have formed a cult. But after managing to get exiled from this cult of blood-drinking mutants, Lucy and Maximus end up finding Thaddeus and discover that he is turning into a ghoul, and because of this, Thaddeus hands over the head to the two and flees the coming of his former superiors who would never accept a ghoul amongst the Brotherhood of Steel ranks. With the Brotherhood on their way to take the head, Maximus willingly hands the head to Lucy while he attempts to deceive the Brotherhood with some other severed head, leading those two to kiss each other goodbye. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Lucy's brother Norm is going full hacker man, trying to discover what sketchy activity his father was up to, only to uncover that Vault 31 was secretly a storage facility for every future overseer of Vaults 32 and 33, and that both Betty and Hank were former Vault-Tec employees chosen to be managers and frozen into the future. And after discovering too much, the cyborg brain of Bud Askins would lock Norm into Vault 31, giving him no other choice but to place himself in suspended animation amongst the other managers. And we don't know what happened to Norm after this. Hopefully he's alright, but chances are he's taking a big old nap. But anyways, Lucy then makes her way to Moldaver's headquarters at the local observatory, where Moldaver has Hank caged while she has tea with the ghoul that used to be Lucy's mother, Rose. After Moldaver tells Lucy the truth, Lucy tearfully orders her father to give Moldaver the code to access the cold fusion reactor so the Wasteland could have a chance at survival. But unfortunately, here comes the Brotherhood of Steel looking to take the cold fusion reactor for themselves, along with an unwilling Maximus among them. After Maximus frees Hank from his cage like a dingus, Hank betrays Maximus by stealing his power armor and knocking Maximus out. But when the ghoul comes to question Hank about the whereabouts of his family, Hank runs away like a baby to New Vegas, leaving Lucy, the ghoul, and Dogmeat to chase after him, while Maximus is praised as a hero when everyone mistakes him as the knight who killed Moldaver. So, needless to say, the show was very purposely ended with a season 2 in mind. But anyways, with this being a Fallout TV show, there's obviously going to be a ton of Easter eggs pointing towards the games, and my goodness, are there a bunch lingering in the background. Here are some of the most notable. Episode 1 opens with Cooper Howard and his daughter wearing blue and yellow cowboy costumes, with blue and yellow obviously being the colors of the Vault Dweller suits that Cooper was made to advertise before the Great War. Those two douchebags at the party mockingly want him to do his signature thumbs up from the Vault Tech commercial, a thumbs up that would end up inspiring Vault Tech to use Cooper's commercial for their actual Vault Boy mascot, an origin that I did not see coming so quickly in this series. And as the kids are about to eat cake and watch the Grognak the Barbarian TV show based on the popular Grognak comics from the Fallout games, an advertisement for Fallout's Sugar Bomb cereal plays before a far less sweet bomb drops on American soil. A little bit after this, we see Lucy and her father on stationary cycles watching one of Cooper Howard's old movies, foreshadowing the revelation that Hank once asked Howard for his autograph while working for Vault Tech, because Hank was a massive fan. And this happens before we symbolically get a foreboding shot of Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, and this shot of Stephanie Harper tapping on one of Lucy's Vault Boy bobbleheads in her bedroom. These Vault Boy bobbleheads were collected in the games in order for players to level up their perks and special stats. And while this isn't exactly a missable Easter egg, Vault Tech's high-tech Pip-Boy can be seen on the wrists of all the Vault Dwellers, as well as on some of the people attending the party that Cooper was at. And I freaking love how all of the Pip-Boys appear pretty much exactly the way they present themselves in the games, with the same tabs at the top and everything. And later, we can see someone playing the Pip-Boy game Atomic Command, which was an actual playable Pip-Boy holotape game from Fallout 4. And later, when Lucy gets stabbed by her raider of a husband, she uses an extremely video game accurate stim pack to stabilize herself before Chet runs into a raider hitting that puff puff jet gas to make themselves hallucinate and increase their strength, with all of Moldaver's people wearing the same garb that raiders would wear in the video games. Then, before we meet Maximus for the first time, we of course see the logo of the Brotherhood of Steel faction flying on their flag before getting to see how badass T-60 power armor looks in live action as a squad of Brotherhood Knights roll up. But anyways, when Lucy exits the vault at the end of episode 1, not only do we discover that Vault 33 is located super close to the Santa Monica Pier, as we can see the Santa Monica Pier Ferris wheel in the background, but Lucy's exit resembles the vault exit the player experiences in Fallout 4. And episode 2 begins with the introduction of the dog that would eventually be known as Dogmeat, with Dogmeat of course being the player's companion in Fallouts 1 through 4. And Dogmeat would come in clutch later on to save Lucy from one of the Wasteland's many rad roaches, one of the most common enemies that players of the games have had the displeasure of wasting bullets on. As someone who grew up with roaches in his house, I cannot stand these things whenever I play Fallout, man. Like, if I actually lived in the Fallout universe, I would legit sleep with a T-60 power suit on, because if I ever woke up with a rad roach on my body, I would instantaneously pass away. But anyways, a little later, we can see Siggy Wilzig inspecting a can of Fallout spam parody, Cram, before hearing the growl of a mutant black bear that the Chinese have named the Yao Guai. And later, when Lucy first arrives at Philly, a tall sign for Nuka-Cola can be seen behind her. Nuka-Cola machines and bottles can be seen throughout this TV series over and over again, as Nuka-Cola was yet another one of these companies looking to profit off of the looming apocalypse before the Great War. Nuka-Cola is so popular that Nuka-Cola bottle caps are the main currency of the wasteland that players need to collect to buy stuff. And speaking of Philly, showrunner Jonathan Nolan has gone on record to state that he purposely designed Philly with the Fallout 3 town of Megaton in mind. So, I hope those of you who chose to blow up Megaton with a nuke actually felt flashbacks of remorse when looking at Philly in this episode. And soon after this, we get to see a live-action Brahmin for the first time, with these two-headed cows being a staple of the series ever since the first Fallout game. And outside of the supply shop in Philly, you can see a sign that says, "You steal, we shoot," with a Righteous Authority laser rifle at the top of the sign. And inside of this supply shop, another Vault Boy bobblehead can be seen next to an unused stim pack. And later on inside of the shop, after the ghoul shows up to put some holes in some strangers, another Vault Boy bobblehead can be seen next to a carton of Fallout brand Big Boss cigarettes. Don't smoke cigarettes, kids. That shit will kill you just as fast as the ghoul will. And at the top of a gun rack inside of the supply shop, we can also see a junk jet being sold for 285 caps, with the junk jet, of course, being an iconic heavy-duty weapon. And later, when the mysterious man from the Enclave gets himself a temporary leg, we can see a Mr. Handy poster advertising for the Abraxo brand, a brand most famously known for selling cleaning agent as well as paint in the Fallout universe. Mr. Handy is, of course, the multi-purpose house robot that was extremely popular to have before the Great War. And one of these Mr. Handy robots would, of course, try to take Lucy's organs later on in the TV series. And not far away from that poster is a poster featuring Mr. Pebbles, the first cat the United States would send into space in this universe. And you know what? I think our universe needs to send more cats into space, because cats in space is always a good time. Moving on to episode 3, we can see Lucy munching on some Yum Yum brand deviled eggs, which is a food item in the Fallout series that players can eat for health in exchange for just a smidge of radiation poisoning. Not too bad. And later, we get a major reference to the first Fallout game when that black vault dweller informs the people of Vault 33 that the water chip has been destroyed, which is the primary reason that the main character of the first Fallout game leaves the vault in search for. And later, Maximus and Thaddeus are attacked by a giant sea creature called a gulper, a species that first made their appearance in the Fallout 4 DLC, Far Harbor. And while the ghoul and Lucy are walking through the desert, we can see the remnants of a bus that used to conduct tours for the California Crest studio, a studio that Cooper Howard would work for to produce the Man from Dead Horse movie, a poster of which can be seen inside of Cooper Howard's old house later on in the series. And it appears that California Crest would eventually be bought out by Robco. And after we see Cooper Howard doing his iconic thumbs up, the episode ends with a billboard for Mr. Handy claiming that he'll be your new best friend. And you know what? I wish Matt Berry was my new best friend. He's a very funny man. And in episode 4, we can see Chet eating a rather lame cram meal by himself before getting some action from a one-eyed woman with a very disturbing fetish. But this is before we see Lucy and the ghoul heading to a Super Duper Mart, a popular chain of supermarkets in the Fallout series that first made its appearance in Fallout 3. And later, when Norm is doing some detective work to find out the mysteries being hidden from him by his local Vault-Tec government, we can see him staring at a retro computer screen with insanely video game accurate visuals. Like, they literally went out of their way to make this screen look exactly like reading one of the many logs in a Fallout game looks like, and I love that so much. And after Lucy disables that very handsy Mr. Handy that tries to steal her organs, we can see her picking up a bottle of Abraxo cleaner. But anyways, when Maximus and Lucy have a proper meeting in episode 5, Maximus mentions that he has Radaway on him when he sees how nauseous Lucy is getting after drinking that radioactive water. Though part of me does feel that this is a misdirection, as I do feel that there's a chance here that Lucy could be nauseous because that asshole that tried to kill her on her wedding night might have actually gotten her pregnant, which would suck so much, but you know, that's what happens when you just go rubber free. Wrap it up, fellas. And I really, really enjoyed how you can see a rainbow form in between Lucy and Maximus in this shot here, not long after they agreed to work together, as that rainbow was meant to foreshadow their special connection. And after Maximus is soon shot by some fiends, he says that his bullet was nothing but a scratch, which I felt was a reference to that guard that says "'tis but a scratch" when he gets his arm cut off in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Then the two eventually make their way to Shady Sands, or at least, you know, the place that used to be Shady Sands, with Shady Sands, of course, being the former capital of the new California Republic that was first introduced in the first ever Fallout game and played a massive role. And at the start of episode 6, we learn that Bud Askin spent 10 years working for the weapons manufacturing company West-Tech before working for Vault-Tec, with Howard directly mentioning the T-45 power armor that West-Tech first developed to serve as a prototype for the future, newer, improved models like the T-60. And in this episode, we can see a number of movie posters of movies that Cooper Howard starred in the Fallout universe, like The Man from Calabasas, A Man and His Dog, and Under the Covers. And soon after this, we would learn that TV legend Matt Berry himself would become the voice of Mr. Handy, as Bartholomew Cogsworth would foolishly sell his voice to the California Crest movie studio that would soon be brought out by Robco. But anyways, later, while Maximus is starting to enjoy the vault life, he receives a gift basket with Yum Yum brand deviled eggs and cram inside, before, you know, getting his mind absolutely blown by caviar. And while Lucy is looking over the history of Shady Sands in that mutant vault classroom, we can see the flag for the new California California Republic, a flag with a two-headed bear on it, though, ironically, no two-headed bears have actually ever appeared as enemies in the Fallout series, so I don't know where this two-headed bear even came from. And at the start of episode 7, we are treated to our first look at the Red Rocket gas station that was first introduced in Fallout 3. And later, while continuing his investigative work into the secrets of Vaults 32 and 31, Norm is forced to complete the hacking minigame that players would have to complete in order to hack into Robco Industries terminals like this one. And when Lucy finally arrives at Modaver's place at the beginning of episode 8, she pulls out her video game accurate Pip-Boy map to let her know that she was indeed at the correct destination. And while the pre-Great War companies, Vault-Tec, Robco, West-Tec, Big MT, no relation, and Repcon all talk about their plans for the vaults, the West-Tec representative had the idea of creating super mutant soldiers using illegal immigrants, which is significant considering that super mutant soldiers were a major enemy in the original Fallout game. And at the end of their meeting, Cooper's messed up wife says the iconic Fallout line, War never changes, which was a phrase that was first introduced in the opening cinematic of the first Fallout game by none other than Mr. Ron Perlman himself. And later, when Hank is forced to input the code for the cold fusion reactor, he throws in the code 101097, which is significant considering that October 10th, 1997 is the date that the first Fallout game was released. And at the end of the episode, when Hank arrives at New Vegas, he approaches the skull of a Deathclaw, which is a major enemy in the Fallout series. And finally, the credits for episode 8 end with a billboard advertising cryo suites, so that people like all the overseers that came from Vault 31 and the main character from Fallout 4 can place themselves in suspended animation to wait out the apocalypse. But anyways, as I alluded to before, it appears that the recently greenlit Season 2 of this new Fallout series on Amazon is going to center around a Hank McLean looking to take over New Vegas in order for him to do what Vault-Tec taught him and all of the other arrogant assholes of Vault 31 to do: manage and control people. Because as we've seen in the first season of Fallout, having a sense of purpose is vital to keeping the most fearful wanderers of the wasteland alive and powerful. And seeing as Hank was the former overseer of Vault 33 for God knows how many years, Hank is going to choose to keep his purpose alive by establishing a new and organized stronghold within New Vegas, using his newly acquired power armor as the means to take over. Because as we saw in the show, just one man in some Brotherhood of Steel power armor is more than capable of subduing all human threats within a particular region without much effort. And if Hank McLean becomes the new manager of New Vegas, it's only a matter of time before the Brotherhood of Steel come knocking on his door. Not only because the Brotherhood of Steel's obsession with hoarding all forms of pre-war technology for themselves would lead them to finding and confronting Hank for stealing their power armor, but also because whoever controls New Vegas will also control the power coming out of the Hoover Dam, the very reason why New Vegas has power itself. By having the Brotherhood of Steel also covet the cold fusion technology buried within the severed head of a dog-loving science nerd, this series does a fantastic job at showing just how lustful the supposedly noble Brotherhood of Steel is for securing as many sources of energy production for themselves. That, combined with the fact that the Hoover Dam was once targeted by the Mojave Wasteland chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel in the past, it seems like a third great battle for control over the Hoover Dam might just be inevitable for the Fallout universe, as two great battles have been fought over this dam before. But anyways, that is it for this breakdown of the Fallout series on Amazon.com. What did you guys think of this series? Let us know in the comment section down below. And also, let us know if you guys are excited for Season 2 of this, because I, for one, definitely am, because this show freaking ruled. It had no reason being as good as it was, so I am so amped to dive more into this universe and to replay all the Fallout games, because I have a hankering for learning more about the ins and outs of this universe, and also, you know, to shoot a radioactive cockroach in the face, because those things should not exist. And huge shout outs to our editor Matt, who is at Superhero Nexus on Twitter, for helping me with a bunch of Easter eggs in this show. This dude was absolutely clutch, so go follow him on Twitter. He's an amazing editor and an even more amazing man, so go check him out on Twitter. Anyways, you can follow me at Mastertainment on Instagram, Twitter, wherever I am on the internet really, but most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notifications every time we upload a video. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You guys are amazing, and I love you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!